Hello everybody and welcome to this video all about the rapidly changing world of AI search. So this is where AI tools, both inside Google and tools like ChatGPT, are changing the way that people are searching and getting answers to questions. This is having a real world effect on the world of sales and lead generation. And we've seen firsthand from a number of clients that the number of people coming to their websites is decreasing. So this could have a big impact on where your next job is coming from. My name is Simon Batchelar. I'm a marketing consultant for Pallant Studio, and we work with engineering, manufacturing and IT companies to help them find new leads, show up in search when it matters most, and also connect with people who've never even heard of you and what you do. I'm joined today by Paul Everington. So Paul, do you want to give us a quick intro?
Yes, I'm Paul Everington from Everwell Associates, and we help SMEs in the same sort of areas of business as you improve their business strategies, whether it's just getting more efficient and making their company more profitable, or looking at cybersecurity, business resilience, and overall risks to your business and how you can plan to minimize those risks.
So you've probably used a website called Google and you've probably asked a question of it, and then you've got those traditional 10 blue links that come up. It's a probably 15-year-old business model, give or take. It's been working very well. Now you've got tools on your phone, on your desktop that people are using every day, like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. And what people are finding is they're using those tools to ask questions rather than Google. So if you use Google, you may have seen the AI overview that pops up at the top. It's the little summary and the answer to your question. So for example, if you say, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow in wherever, it will then give you the answer to that question. Or if you type in a maths problem, for example, it just solves the maths problem and tells you the answer. It took me an embarrassing long amount of time to work out that you can do some very complicated maths just within the Google search bar. But increasingly, what's happening is people are getting the answer and then getting on with their day. So what used to be, for example, a very technical question about an engineering process, I would get 10 blue links and I'd then have to go click on it, see if that's the right one, maybe not, back, click on it, get my answer. Oh yeah, that's the one actually, yeah. And go to that website to find the answer. And now less and less needing to do that. Then if you think, well, if I ask that question in ChatGPT, it doesn't even tell me that it got that answer from a website. It would just very confidently give me the answer, and then I can just get on with my day. So increasingly, people are using these tools to ask questions. So from a marketing perspective, it used to be that one of the ways you could attract leads was by answering common questions that people have before they get in touch with you. And therefore, people would type in, for example, what is the best tolerance of this material to use for this product situation? So that question, very specific, but actually if you knew that a lot of your engineering or design clients were asking that question, by making a web page all about that, you could win that search every time. We've got clients that has been working for decades, having just those hyper-specific but very frequent questions answered. The problem now is that that question is just answered by Google, so they're not getting that web traffic. That means they're not getting someone looking at the web page and thinking, well, this company seems to know what they're talking about. There's their phone number. I'll give them a ring and hopefully they can help. That link is being removed by AI. So if you think about your business, that could be a real problem, because if you've had a very well-performing website for the last 10 years, all of a sudden the game has changed. We're seeing double-digit, if not 25 to 30% drops in organic traffic across some of the websites that we manage. And that is huge. That is a massive drop. You know, that is almost like there's something wrong with the website. And when we first saw it, we were like, what is there a problem with the site? We used a lot of tools that we use every day to help us understand that no, it's just there are less people clicking the links because they're getting the answer right there in Google, or they're getting that answer in ChatGPT. We started to ask ChatGPT some of the questions. It very confidently gives the answer. You can see it's using the answer from the page that we made to give the answer, but with no credit. So we found that actually the game is changing fast. So there's, I guess, 2 points I'm trying to make there. One is that if you're seeing your sales drop off, it might not be you, it could be AI, and we've got some ways we can help with that. But secondly, this presents a really interesting way about how we think about risk more generally in our businesses, because AI search has been a risk to most businesses for about 6 months, maybe a year, if you are really forward looking. And the businesses that are thinking about their risk more regularly will have already seen that. So, Paul, can you explain a little bit more about that process, about how do you look at risk in a business? What is it that businesses could be looking at so they can help stay ahead of these, or at least try and keep up with some of these changes that we're seeing?
Well, yeah, risk assessment, as I said, is a very simple concept. But if we're just specifically looking at the effect on the marketing of your business, you need to look at, okay, why are the organic figures not as good as they used to be? And you can do that by looking at all the analysis from the website. And most people don't do that. There's Google Analytics and all sorts of tools. I know, Simon, you can help them with that. It's about writing down the plan. It's about then measuring it and saying, okay, so here is what we used to have and what is it doing now? And then the next phase, obviously, is what can we do to improve that? But you make an important point about AI as well, which I think everyone should think about carefully from both sides. So we're all using AI ourselves for searching. How reliable is that source data? You assume it's reliable, obviously, but it's not. It's a composite. As an example of that, I used to deal with tenders for certain customers where they would take the specifications of the three main suppliers in that industry, mix them all up, take the top specification features, like game of top trumps, and put that in their requirement specification, which meant that they could never get anything because no company could make all those top things. And they'd eventually have to drill down to the lowest common denominator. Now, if you consider that in terms of, the reliability of the data as an input to your business, that's a warning to you to review that carefully. But then when you think of it as an output, the problem is that your customers are probably going to believe it as well. So it's a question of how you can influence that. So think about how you're getting your message out there. In many cases these days, unfortunately with AI, you will need to speak to the experts. You're a little bit limited in just how much you can do, but consider carefully about your message, about crafting that and the different media that you will use to get that message across. But it's a risk assessment, just like everything else.
Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, as in like the risk isn't just in the marketing sense. Obviously, the marketing sense is a great way to get people to watch the video, and thanks for watching. Yeah. But the other risk is, well, how's AI being used internally? What is the potential risk to misinformation? Not intentional misinformation, just the very confident way at which ChatGPT will tell you that you're right about everything every single time. And what could that potentially be introducing into the way that your team is starting to think about projects, solve problems, how they're starting to talk to clients, what they're starting to recommend in conversations, not just to each other, but externally. And this is all something that, especially as a management team, you need to be sitting down and really starting to think about. I think there's another thing that we have discussed before, Paul, and this is about the fact that there are ways that you can be using AI with confidence and to make efficiency gains, but also perhaps to expand your abilities and capabilities internally. It's not all risk. There's a lot of opportunity in AI. And some people might be thinking, well, that all sounds a bit complicated. But one thing that me and Paul have discussed quite a few times is that if you're thinking about it, it's quite likely that your competitors are already thinking about it.
Absolutely.
And therefore, the risk is not doing it.
Yeah.
So I think also, would you say there's an R&D element to that? How would you think people can sort of look at that risk versus opportunity within the business?
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, with our engineering customers and your customers and so on, they do R&D, and a lot of companies will think, well, we don't do R&D, research and development. Surely that doesn't apply. No, absolutely. That as a concept applies to everyone. We're all sitting here running our business, and we're doing it the best way we know, because we wouldn't do it in anything other than the best way we know. But the world out there is changing, whether it is AI or some other technology or a route to market, it's changing. And so when we help people with whether they go for the full ISO 9001 certification or whether they just want to improve their basic operating systems, we say to them, you must build in continuous improvement. You must, every few months, review what you're doing and just say, can we do this better? And in that way, you then start to consider the external influences. What are our competitors doing? Are they using technology, AI, whatever it is that we're not using? and always try to improve your business. So that's part of the risk assessment strategy is, okay, what are the problems now? What are we going to do to protect against them? But what's our future proofing?
I think that's really solid advice. And I think, as with a lot of our conversations, Paul, we often end up coming out of it with, we start with either an engineering or a process focus and end up with a sort of whole business benefit to what we're both discussing. And that's why we started making these videos. So I think ultimately there is a lot of risk in AI, and it could be having a direct action or consequence to your business, either sales or production or efficiency right now. But I think it's how you turn that risk into an opportunity, or how you mitigate that risk to maintain an opportunity or an advantage that you have.
Yeah, and don't ignore it. That's the main thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you'd like to talk about anything to do with AI and marketing, how to show up, how to make sure that you're ahead of your competitors when it comes to being considered before they're necessarily searching for your business name, but at the point where they're asking those questions that your website may no longer be able to serve, we do have some ways of doing that. So do get in touch, and you can find me on LinkedIn with Simon Batchelar, or you can visit our website, Pallant.studio. And Paul, if people want to get in touch with you about assessing that risk and how to judge the risk versus opportunity and how it's going to take advantage of all of that and turn it into something that's going to benefit their business, how can they get in touch with you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Paul Everington, or visit our website at everwell.associates.
Thanks very much, everybody, for listening and watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much. See you next time.